Last week, while attention was centered on the proposed $700 billion Wall Street bailout, the U.S. Congress quietly passed another bill of concern, a landmark $612 billion defense spending bill. The measure, which was promptly signed into law by President Bush on Tuesday, includes $40 billion for Homeland Security, $73 billion for Veterans Affairs and new military base construction, and a record $488 billion for the Pentagon. Joining us by phone now from San Diego to discuss the bill is journalist and author Chalmers Johnson, author of the renowned Blowback trilogy and a former advisor to the CIA. Thank you for joining us, Chalmers.
Thank you for inviting me.
So first of all, tell us a little bit more about what's in this bill, and then talk a little bit about how come we're not hearing very much about something which is practically the same size as the Wall Street bailout.
Well, that was the thing that struck me and led me to do the essay that you saw in The Nation and on Tom Dispatch and a few other places. It was to say, while people were tearing their hair and sucking air and moaning at the bar over the size of the Wall Street bailout, nobody gave a second thought to well over $600 billion worth of defense appropriations, which will be just one of three similar bills before the year is over, in paying for the wars, in building up the bases, in paying for outer space research, and one thing after another. The amazing thing is that it was didn't even deserve its own article in the New York Times. It got tacked on to the end of another article about a different appropriation in 3 short paragraphs. It was passed in the Senate by simply voice vote. There was no comment at all, which I was out to try and say, there's something terribly gone wrong here. We have the money. People were complaining we didn't. We have the money if we just quit wasting it on the military-industrial complex, the armed services themselves, and the tremendous interests and lobbyists that they represent. It's really one of the things that I believe is driving the United States into close to bankruptcy.
Right. We did a promo, a little piece the other day, which we put on our website called "Help Us Take On the Industrial Military Complex."
Right.
And one of the things I said in it, I talked about the military-industrial complex being a hidden hand that affects so much of American politics and economics.
Right.
How do you explain how this is so hidden at a time when everyone's supposed to be so freaked out about a growing deficit that it gets no comment in Congress and the Senate and nothing in the media? How do you explain it?
Well, there's something weird about it. I mean, in the recent debate between McCain and Obama, the only person who ever even so much as mentioned the incoherent budgets, the crappy accounting, the failures generally in the Pentagon was McCain. For Obama, it just looks like the third rail. Don't touch anything to do with national security, or they'll go crazy over it. All the people in Congress had to say was, we have to respect our troops, which of course is nonsense, since service in the armed forces is no longer an obligation of citizenship. It is a career choice. It's something that people volunteer to do if they care to. And it often reflects a lot of other motives than anything to do with national security. Has very little to do with national security, period. But the only way you can say is that this is become ingrained. It's part of our society. It goes back to NSC 68, and that is in 1950, and the post-war American determination that it was going to maintain both a military economy and a civilian economy, and it could do both. One of the reasons for doing so was that many people during the late 1940s remembered the Depression very clearly. They were very much aware that America overcame the Depression only in the context of military spending during World War II. They were scared to death that we were going to go back into the Depression once military spending ended, and that then led to what I've called in my latest book military Keynesianism, the use of the military as a jobs program, as a way of trying to maintain full employment, and with the fallacious idea that money spent on munitions factories is the same thing as consumption or an investment. It's not at all. It's, in fact, drains resources away from productive investments. We spent well over $5 trillion in the post-war period on nuclear weapons. They're almost a perfect example of what John Maynard Keynes was talking about. In the sense that we never had to use one. Thankfully, we never had to use one. But that
not since the war, at any rate, not
right.
since Japan.
But that there were
I just point that out. I'm not suggesting you do this, but in terms of a lot of American history, people seem to want to just pass over the fact that the United States actually did use.
Well, I totally agree with you. It's it's a taboo subject, like much of what we're talking about here. But then it got caught up in the Cold War mentality. In huge vested interests, so serious that President Eisenhower, in leaving office, warned us against the dangers of the military-industrial complex, that, as we now look back on it, probably the greatest single crime of the military-industrial complex has been to totally corrupt the Congress, in the sense that the Congress simply is incapable and doesn't want to do oversight on the military. They're complicit with the military in getting defense factories, air bases, things of this sort located in their districts, and the military-industrial complex understands that, so that on any very big project like the B-1 bomber or something like that, they try to put a piece in as many different constituencies as possible in order to keep these people in line. And it's one of the major causes of what we saw these past 2 weeks, a collapse of America's possible influence in the world, as serious as that of the former Soviet Union.
So talk a bit about the role of the media, because what I've been suggesting myself in the past is the media just simply doesn't seem to be willing to take up a critique that goes any further than the critique of the leadership of the two parties of each other. So if the Dems don't critique this bill, then the media won't open its mouth. I'm talking main corporate media.
Well, it is one of the catastrophic failures of our democracy that the founders of the country did not write Article 1, the Amendment 1, freedom of the press, into the Constitution in order to save People magazine. It had a real purpose, and it was to that the function of the free press and the reason to protect it was that it was to penetrate the bureaucracy and penetrate its most powerful weapon, namely secrecy, and expose it to the rest of the world. Our media has just totally failed on that. It's become complicit as part of the military-industrial complex. It continuously propagandizes for these things and fails to notice that we're not just talking about a jobs program of the political representatives in the state of Washington doing everything in their power to keep Boeing in business, that kind of thing. But that also, after a while, they want to test these things by having a war, by draining them down so that they can invest in more of them. They refuse to deal with any number of issues, including the fact that the Department of Defense was not able to defend the country on September 11th, 2001. We've had to create a new and different and very expensive organization, the Department of Homeland Security, which is charged now with national defense. It's getting to be farcical, but it is also, the way it ends is bankruptcy.
Well, in the next segment of our interview, let's just pick up on that. The military-industrial complex and the current economic crisis. Please join us for the second part of our interview with Chalmers Johnson.